All right. Welcome back, folks, to the FF Face-Off, part of the Face-Off Sports Network. We are a fantasy football podcast, and today we are going to be coming at you with our Week 1 reactions. We'll tell you some of the spots where we were right, where we were wrong, where we warned you, and we'll see how it shakes out. We'll also answer all of your questions as well. But yeah, so it should be a good time. And then we got a little more football tonight with Monday Night Football. The end of week 1 culminates with the 49ers and the Jets out in Santa Clara. So that should be a good time. Hopefully, I hear it's windy there, though. So we'll see. My name is Michael Hobb. You can follow me on X at the FF Realist. I'm joined by Steve D'Angelo, who can be followed at Fantasy Savvy. Steve, you're on the you're on the mend, feeling good, ready to roll.
Yeah. Getting better slowly but surely, and just get my energy back. I don't know I don't know what the fuck hit me, but we're moving on past it. We're getting stronger every day, and it was good to watch some football yesterday. That was a lot of fun. We got one game left. Mike and I have a pizza bet going. I took the straight up bet. I got some balls here. Jets got to go
Oh,
on
you're
the
getting 2
road.
for 1 though.
Yeah, that's true. I forgot about the 2 for 1. So
Yeah.
you could do that Domino's or Pizza Hut, $5.99 special.
Sure.
That's
Yeah.
a good 2 for 1 for you. But yeah, Jets go on the road here, a night game. I was watching that sleep video a couple weeks, and that lady was saying when teams go on the road, West Coast, East Coast teams are at a big disadvantage because of the time. Like it's essentially like
Sure.
10 o'clock, 10:30 their time. So we'll see how that all plays into it. Jets offensive line is going to have to really play well. If they do, I think they can get the W here. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Good way to end the week.
Yeah, for sure. Also joining us, licking some wounds, which we'll get to at some point during the show because he's got some stuff to get off his chest. His name is Pete Nova. He can be followed at Supernova38. That's with 2 R's. Pete, how was your Sunday despite the Broncos?
It was good. My sister got married, so that was cool. I
Okay.
had to kind of watch the replay of Denver, even though I didn't really want to. We'll get into that a little bit later, but it was cool. I think this is the first time when I worked for the Jets a couple years back. I was there for opening day against the Bills. That was Le'Veon Bell's first year with the Jets. That was like the only time I haven't been on the couch when the first kickoff happens for week 1 on Sunday slate. The last time I can remember probably was like when I was playing football in like middle school. I've always been on the couch ready to go. So, got to make sacrifices when you get older. But I am ready to roll. So I didn't get to enjoy the games like you guys, but that's all right. I'll have next week.
And one of us who is rolling into this podcast with triumph. Not only did his team get a victory on Sunday, but they also locked up their starting quarterback for quite a pretty penny. His name is Anthony Servino. He's always, by the way, he's always handsome. He's always wonderful. He's not wearing a tank top, though, and he's a little bit confused. But his name is Anthony Servino. He can be followed the real NFL guru. Anthony, how you feeling after this weekend, buddy?
Good. A lot of obvious surprises with Dallas right before the season starts. We get the aforementioned Dak contract, and then they go into Cleveland and dominate the Browns. And I was surprised. I get the offense is a work in progress with Deshaun Watson, but defensively, Dallas with 2 starting rookie offensive linemen, they protected Dak well for most of that game, and they scored just enough points to blow the game open. And in the second half, I think Cleveland tried to put up a fight, but that game was over in the second quarter.
Yeah. So, which again, I told you off air, I thought they had it the whole time. But good for you, good for your Cowboys, and then on to the Saints next week, right? So there you go. All right. Last but not least, and we'll get more into the Cowboys throughout the show, but last but not least, I failed to mention, please go to fffaceoff.com for all your fantasy football, NFL, sports betting needs. We got a lot going on there. We all take part in articles on there too, so you can check out our content there. But yeah, so check that out. And while you're here on YouTube, please feel free to hit the like button, the subscribe button, and the bell icon to be notified every single time that we go live. Anthony, before we get into some of these risers and fallers, I do see Jared is talking about Puka Nacua, who I wanted to just, we wanted to mention a couple injuries here off the top. But I mean, the one that comes to mind for me, Anthony, is Puka Nacua banged up his knee last night. Turns out it's the same knee that he banged up during training camp. I saw that he wasn't an IR candidate, and then literally within 10 minutes, it was announced that he's being put on the IR. So that was fast. So, Anthony, this sounds like it's Cooper Kupp time in Los Angeles, and it certainly was last night too.
Yeah, this is significant. And we know the timeline with Puka Nacua going into this season. He hurts the knee, end of August. But then going into week one, Sean McVay and the Rams made it seem like he was good to go. He injures it last night, comes out of the game, comes back in. And usually when a player comes back in, then immediately leaves. That tells us that there's something more significant, something more to the story. And now, not only is Puka Nacua going to miss week 2, but he is going to be sidelined for the next 4 games after being placed on IR with the PCL sprain. So fantasy football wise, like, this is a big blow to anybody who drafted Puka. You either spent a late first on him, or if you got him post-injury in the preseason, a second-round pick. And last night, even when Puka Nacua was on the field and healthy, it was the Cooper Kupp show. And what that tells us is that those rumors from beat reporters saying, hey, as long as Cooper Kupp's healthy, this offense is going to run through Cooper Kupp. That was no BS. So, like, not you got like a double punch in the face here, not only with the injury, but also right out the gate, it is the Cooper Kupp show. So, Puka Nacua fantasy managers, you have to kind of dig yourself out of a little bit of a hole. I don't have Puka. I have one share of Puka, and I regretted hitting the draft button when I did it. And I'm certainly regretting it now. I feel like we were drafting him at his ceiling, with his workout metrics coming out. Like, he is at his ceiling. What he gave us last year, Puka Nacua will never replicate. So there's nowhere else but to go, but down right now. And yeah, waiver wire wise, I would pick up DeMarcus Robinson. They also have Tyler Johnson, but Robinson played more snaps. Johnson was the one who caught the touchdown. But we know how Sean McVay is. Whoever he is featuring in that Puka Nacua role seems to have productive fantasy outings. And I'm going after DeMarcus. In fact, the one good thing I did on that Puka team in the FFPC was I handcuffed Puka Nacua and drafted DeMarcus Robinson. So at least the blow isn't as bad. DeMarcus Robinson, I did a waiver wire video earlier. He's rostered in fewer than 10% of leagues out there. So I would go and pounce on him.
So Steve, I'll go to you on this one because Anthony did answer some of Jared's question. He was asking what wide receiver on the Rams to grab. Anthony already answered that. But for you, Steve, he wants you to rank these wide receivers in PPR. Brandon Cooks, Rashid Shaheed, who started off with a bang yesterday, and then Jerry Jeudy, who also got into the end zone. This is PPR scoring. Actually, all 3 of them got in the end zone. So,
yeah, I like Shaheed. Always been a Shaheed guy, and I think with Clint Kubiak, things might be changing for the better here for the Saints. They open up, big play to Shaheed down the field. And Derek Carr, has a very, very good debut. Not a ton of yards, but throws 3 or 4 touchdowns. So I think I like Shaheed. There's nobody really outside of him there that's really a threat. I mean, you got Olave, had a very slow day. I expect him to pick it back up, but no other receivers to really note. It's a lot of Kamara, a little bit of Taysom Hill. So yeah, Shaheed. Then I'd probably go Brandon Cooks and then Jeudy. Deshaun Watson. I know Jeudy scored yesterday, but we got to see Deshaun Watson, play with some consistency and play with some, a little bit of the old Deshaun. And Cooks had a nice little game. And again, there's not a lot in Dallas to throw to either. And then Ferguson might be out for a couple of weeks. So we'll see what happens with him. He may be back sooner than later. But yeah, that's the way I would rank it.
Pete, well, I'll just go through because we don't have a lot of questions. So I'll just ask this one to you. This one's coming from Christian Reyes over on the YouTube. Appreciate you, Kristen. Make sure you hit that like button, buddy. But he says, what's your thoughts on Amon-Ra? And if I could get Mixon and Debo for him, is that good? Now, to be clear, there is no injury, right, for Amon-Ra, but he was pretty much kind of phased out. The Rams took him out of this game. So are you panicking? Because we're going to get these kinds of questions. These are kind of things we're going to talk about today. Are you panicking after week 1 with Amon-Ra?
I'm not, but the only thing I will say, and this is on me. For some reason, Jameson Williams slipped through the cracks for me this offseason, and he got targeted on more routes run percentage wise than St. Brown, and he could be a real factor in taking away some of St. Brown's volume. And St. Brown's ADOT, not very high. This is a guy that relies on that volume. He does create after catch, but Williams could definitely affect his ceiling. And if Laporta and Gibbs start to get more involved, I do worry about it with St. Brown, but I'm not ready to make that kind of trade just yet. I mean, granted, Joe Mixon, that workload, 30 carries. If Joe Mixon at his age is toting the rock at that kind of volume, I don't think he holds up for a full season, in my opinion. I'm willing to probably make that bet that a guy at his age probably doesn't. So in my opinion, I wouldn't make the trade unless you really need the running back. Then I think it's a good deal for you because I do like Debo, but you really have to need that running back. And again, I like Mixon. I didn't get to really watch a ton of that game, but the amount of carries does scare me a little bit. And an older running back at his age with his amount of touches, like how long can his juice hold up? Forgetting about injury, but how long can he hold up juice wise in a long season if he's getting that kind of amount of carries at his age with those legs? So,
yeah. All right. Albert did ask, do we think Puka Nacua will be back after the Rams week 6 bye? And I think we're all going to kind of agree, just kind of see how it goes. Yeah. You know, because we don't know how bad this injury is, so I think we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, PCL sprain. I mean, that's never really like a major injury, but you know, he had the burst of sack. Now he's got the PCL sprain. So, you know, we'll see. I think, you know, giving him the 4 weeks off is smart. Now, can the Rams hold up without him? We saw a little bit last night. I mean, they were mixing in Tyler Johnson, who I've always kind of liked, but never really made it out with the Bucks. But, you know, one guy that you got to put on your radar now is Jordan Whittington. I mean, he's kind of like in that he's going to get more snaps now. He played like a couple snaps yesterday, had a touchdown called back. But he's a guy to put on your radar. But DeMarcus Robinson, for sure, like he was always ahead of Whittington, despite Whittington going ahead of him in drafts. So, yeah, those two guys. And then Tyler Johnson, yeah, you're going to take a shot on too. But you just hope as a Puka owner, you hope that it's just 4 weeks. He could heal up. He can get totally healthy and be back. Then he can start paying dividends for your fantasy teams once again. Because first round, if you lose it for any more than that, that's going to rip your hair out. You're going to start ripping your freaking hair out. I mean,
the only thing I was going to say is we didn't mention Colby Parkinson too. I mean, he's like 10% or less rostered. He was tight end 7 on the week. It was a bad week for tight ends, but like a lot of people liked him coming into the season.
I was
Puka down.
Yeah,
what you said you were one of them.
Yeah, Anthony did like Colby Parkinson, and you know he was the guy. He was the guy that got paid, and you know I kind of like Davis Allen. I think he's a better tight end, like receiving wise. But the thing about Colby Parkinson, he's the better blocker. So and in that system, like Higbee was the guy too. Like Higbee's not talented, but you know
that's why Tutu Atwell can't see the field over those guys.
Right. Especially with Puka out now, Parkinson's going to catch a lot of layups. So yeah, he's going to be a good ad if he's still out there.
And Parkinson had 5 targets last night alone.
Yeah.
So
and McVay is just a master of just creating layups for his guys. Like,
my bad, Steve. I was just going to say before we jump off, do one of you guys want to answer this for Robert? Because we just talked about Parkinson. So, I mean, it's a good follow-up question. I'd rather have Parkinson too.
Yeah,
me too.
Yeah, same here.
Fucking Payne's to start bringing out Adam Troutman pretty soon. So
Dulcich did run like 80% of the snaps for tight ends.
I do like Dulcich,
but I'd rather Parkinson.
I think Dulcich is definitely the better player, but I just think Parkinson's in a better situation right now.
Yeah, much better.
Anthony, I'm going to ask this one to you, and then we'll get moving. He says, "Hey guys, back in a 6-man league, PPR. Anthony, 6-man." His RBs are his weakest, he says, after looking at week 1.
What do you have? CMC, Brees, Bijan?
He has A-Chain, Derrick Henry, James Cook, and Rashad White. What RB should I try and target the trade for? What basically, who should he target and who should he trade away if he was going to? I don't think he needs to.
Yeah, I mean, it's a 6-team league. Go
to free agents.
Yeah, there's probably a lot on a waiver wire you can pick up without making your team worse at another position.
Go get Kenny Walker. That's what I would say. Maybe try to trade Henry for Kenny Walker.
If anybody, Rashad White, and I'm on the wrong side of this all the time, I think Bucky Irving is going to eat into that early down workload. Rashad White had a nice fantasy day. He was a great fantasy player last year. But I remember looking up Rashad White's efficiency, and I had Chuba Hubbard pulled up. They're literally the same running back. Mm-hmm. And Bucky Irving comes in, averages over 6.5 yards a carry. So if you want to throw somebody out there, if somebody in your league is high in Rashad White, I would sell him.
Me too.
All right. We're getting next Mixon or Taylor for week 2. That's coming from Kobe over on Facebook. I would say for me personally, I would go with Mixon this week if it were me, but we'll just kind of breeze through that.
What's the matchup? I'm just out of curiosity.
The Taylor is going up against Green Bay, and the Texans are going up against the Bears.
I like Taylor there. I mean, look what Saquon just did to them.
Yeah. Sure. And yes, Jamie, we did see that the Browns got Kadarius Toney, and none of us care.
One more thing. Robert Goldman, I guess, who's in your SFB, said sorry he had to beat you so badly this week, Anthony.
I didn't even check my scores yet, but I'm sure it's not good.
Yeah, mine. I'm about down 120 points, but I have four or five 49ers tonight. But
I went 0. I went 0 running back, and all of my running. It's like Jonathan Brooks. It's a mess.
Not the Foreman.
Tyrone Tracy.
Yeah. All right. Let's get on with the actual show here. So again, this is some week 1 reactions. As we go through the show, we will obviously answer your questions. But Pete, I'm going to kick this first player to you. Obviously, guys, if you want to comment on anything he says, feel free. But Baker Mayfield, we'll do a reaction on Mr. Baker Mayfield. He goes up against Commanders, has 289 passing yards, 4 passing touchdowns, 5th time in his career where he's thrown for 4 or more touchdowns, finishes a QB2. Pete, I'll get your thoughts here. I know you want to do a little bit of a victory lap here because you did like Baker Mayfield going into this week, but what are your thoughts there, Pete?
Yeah, I'm happy for Baker. I'll say that at least from a fantasy perspective. I mean, he was amazing. I'm just happy to see. Look, I mean, we liked Canales, and Canales obviously moves on to Carolina, and we credit Canales for the Geno, rebuilding him up, and then obviously Baker looked good, but Baker still looks good. And Anthony made a good point today on RotoWire about the new OC that came over from the McVay tree that's now with the Buccaneers. And honestly, Baker could be better this year than he was last year. It really wouldn't surprise me. Rookie Jalen McMillan, who's one of my sleeper stashes at wide receiver, he ran the most. He ran the most. He was on the field more than Godwin and Evans, and
he dropped a touchdown too, right?
Yeah, I
think he did. Yeah. And he
caught one. Yeah, and he dropped another one.
Yeah. And look, he didn't blow up, but that's a guy I would stash. So I'm just pointing that out.
Yeah, he's good. He's going to be a nice pick, I think.
Yeah. So I'm happy for Baker. I will take my victory lap on that because I did have Baker as my quarterback 10 this week. I had Joe Burrow as my quarterback 22. Joe Burrow finished his quarterback 24. And Baker finished his, I think, quarterback 1 or 2. He's
2 right now.
Yeah, and there was somebody on Twitter out there that said if you had Joe Burrow and we're starting Baker over Burrow, you're crazy. And I said, I guess put me in the fucking loony bin because I was saying, I mean, ask Anthony on Sunday up before the slate.
You were all in on Joe on Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, and I luckily switched off.
You got to think outside the box a lot of times. A lot of you try to go with the safe shit, and then I mean, you get burned by that sometimes too. But.
Dude, the Commanders' defense could also just be a fucking gold mine.
Well, they definitely
are. But and that's kind of what I was saying. I know you pushed back on some of that off air, Pete.
Yeah.
But we'll see how some of those. I was going based off of numbers from last year. We'll see how the teams look. Like you mentioned, the Broncos secondary look better, but I like the schedule coming out of the gate here for Baker. I think he's got a nice shot to get up to a nice start.
I was watching that game, and And Dan Quinn, they're down 30 to 14. It's 4th and 8 from like their own 45. He punts the ball with like 11 minutes left in the fourth quarter. And then the Bucks go on like an 8-minute drive and score a touchdown. Like, you got to just fucking go for it. You're the fucking Commanders. What the fuck? You know, like you just go for the jugular. I mean, you're going to punt and your defense is terrible. So it's just this dumb decision.
Yeah.
Anthony, did you have something else to say? It sounded like you
I would say Baker 9.6 yards per attempt, 24-30, one of the best games of his career, and all of these Buccaneers receivers played well. Now Evans shined with obviously 2 touchdowns, 5 of 61 on 6 targets, but the most targeted Buccaneers receiver was Chris Godwin, and Chris Godwin was somebody I was fading Mike Evans and drafting Chris Godwin again because of Liam Cohen and all the rumors that they're going to play Godwin almost in that Cooper Kupp role. I bought all into that. 8 of 8 targets for 83 yards and a touchdown. So I'm hoping that this continues, because I think this could be a year where, if this keeps up, maybe both of these, Godwin and Evans, they could be top 15 receivers. I don't think that's a stretch. They might have done that one other time with Jameis Winston.
Well, I mentioned it on a show over the summer that last year was like a startling drop as far as Godwin running routes from the slot. And there was a goal for them to put him back in the slot more. Now, I don't know how many of those routes he ran from the slot, but if that's true, and that's could be working out just fine for Chris Godwin. It could be, another good year offensively. We'll see. So, I mean, I'm buying into it.
He had 1,000 yards last year, but the touchdowns, I think, only like 5. So, yeah, he should with him in the slot this year, it should be much better. And, hopefully maybe the offense takes a big step up in general. We'll see.
Yeah. All right. There you go. So, and one last nugget about Joe Burrow. First 3 years of his career, in week 1, he averaged 20.7 points per game. Last 2 years, he's averaged 5.6 points per game.
They started real slow last year, too. You remember? Like, they started 0-2, and then they got hot. They won like 4 in a row, and then Burrow got hurt. So,
yeah.
This is the Bengals, right? Like, they're perennial slow starters. Like, I've never seen anything like it, and they're usually bad losses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I knew that fucking Bengals and Survivor was I should have fucking never.
I swapped them last minute.
I told Pete, I said I would switch them.
Well, I had Bengals, and then I switched to Bills, and then Anthony and me were talking. I was like, fuck. It's like, maybe I should switch, and then I took Miami, which was a sweat. I should have went Bucks. It was Bucks or Miami, but
I don't know how Miami was a sweat. Like Jacksonville, they did not look good.
Well, I mean, Miami didn't look good in the first half. The defense woke up in the second half. But,
Tyreek got the cuffs.
They were cuffed.
That's right. Yeah,
the first half.
We go with this now. That's the next sound drop we need. Are we answering week 2 start sick questions yet or no? Are we waiting?
I don't even know. Yeah, no.
What we can make if we have time at the end. If we have time at the end.
There you go.
We're still getting.
We're still recapping week 1 waivers. Okay. Yeah, we don't. Wednesday is when the week turns over.
Just asking a question, guys. Just asking a question. There we go. All right, and we move it on. Anthony, I'm going to go to you on this one because I know a lot of the room was pretty high on the Falcons. A lot of the fantasy football community was high on the Falcons. But you, of course, were high on the Atlanta Falcons, so I'll kick this one to you. Kirk Cousins. Now, granted, we'll give some credit to the Steelers defense here, but good Lord. Kirk Cousins comes out as he's the QB 29 right now on the week. 155 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 2 picks. Drake London, the wide receiver, 74. Just 2 catches off of 3 targets for 15 yards. Anthony, what the hell happened in Atlanta yesterday? And is this just a one-time thing, or do you think that it's going to be a bit for Cousins to get back into the swing of things?
I have a little bit of a panic going on for Atlanta, right? And it's the Steelers. It's a good defense. It's Tomlin. They scored all field goals. Mm-hmm. You had plenty of opportunities to win this football game. And, Kirk Cousins, only 26 pass attempts. You brought Kirk Cousins in there because he's an excellent thrower of the football. You bring Kirk Cousins in because you spent top 10 draft picks, London, Pitts, Bijan Robinson. You signed Darnell Mooney, and you throw it 26 times. He's only sacked twice under pressure all day. 2 interceptions, and I believe I don't know if he lost a fumble or not, but like this was not a good game for Kirk Cousins. I'm not sure I like the offensive game call, and I get fantasy wise, Bijan he got his
ton of touches.
23 touches, over 100 total yards. He missed a touchdown, which would have cashed our parlays in this room.
Yep,
but
Damn
how do you only target Drake London 3 times, Mooney 3 times, Kyle Pitts 3 times, Charlie Warner, the backup tight end, whatever, maybe a wide receiver. I don't even know what he does.
Charlie
2 targets? What the hell are we doing here? Ray McLeod leading the team in targets with 7. What are we doing here? So, there's a panic meter. Raheem Mostert after the game, we should have got Drake London the ball. No shit.
Yeah.
I don't know if the Steelers beat the Falcons. I think the Falcons beat the Falcons.
But I just wanted to give the Steelers defense is always, for the most part, solid, so but I was a Bijan Robinson touchdown away from somewhere between
you
$15 and $1,800
for 26 pass attempts in a winnable game. You did.
Well, they did get a ton of pressure. They had 7 QB hits. Watt was all over the fucking place. And you notice, like, when Kirk Cousins, it's either like he's either horrible or he's on fire. Like, there's like no kind of in between with him. So it's first game. You don't want to go too crazy. Bijan got a ton of usage, but didn't really do too much with it. They're throwing a freaking Ray Buchanan wearing number 34. Ray McLeod's the leading receiver. I mean, you got to fucking you got to work something with London and Mooney there, and then Pitts caught that one wide open touchdown, saved his day. But
I expected more from Zach Robinson.
A lot of times we assume these guys come from these coaching trees and they're just going to fucking be money, but that's not always the case. So again, it's one game. It's against a tough defense. So let's see.
I would say, hey, look, one great thing that we can at least say is Kyle Pitts played every snap outside of 2. And I know that sounds like who cares, but like at least he's getting the usage on the field that might not have showed up in the first game. He did get saved by a touchdown, but I mean, at least we saw him on the field getting the workload, and at least they're using him. I mean, Pitts ran 28 routes, which was the same amount as London and Darnell Mooney. So that's at least a good sign. I'm not worried about Pitts as much as I'm actually worried about London, to be honest with you.
Sure. What?
I was say, all I know that the Steelers ran over 60 offensive plays, just over 40 for Atlanta. Justin Fields threw it 23 times, Cousins 26. Like, it just doesn't add up to me.
Yeah.
Well, it just doesn't.
Maybe it's something that they course correct going into week 2. We shall see. Just real quick, for programming purposes, Kobe did ask waiver wire pickup. Anthony, you put out a waiver wire short on, which is over on the YouTube. If you're so head on over to YouTube.
I'll drop the link in the comment section too.
And we were also, Anthony, you and I are going to do a show tomorrow, right? About some waiver wires. Okay, so there you go. So we got you covered, Kobe. Before we get on to the next player, our resident troll ATL is asking DFS who do we like as captain tonight. I am specifically not answering that because I'm going up against him and one other person in a $50 per person captain showdown tonight. So
we could just try ATL,
but if the other guys want to answer,
we could just steer him the wrong way for you if you want.
Yeah,
Milwaukee Corley.
Yeah, there you go.
Hey, crazy as it sounds, if Mike Williams gets hurt, Malachi Corley could be fucking amazing for them for fantasy. One other thing before we move on, and this is a good
I would
point
make Ricky Pearsall your captain because it's his birthday today. So there you go, do that.
Coach said we got to tread lightly. It is week 1, and the craziest thing is, dude, there was only 33 passing touchdowns in week 1. In 2019, there were 61. That's almost like, and last year it was in the 30s too. So like, this is a trend. I think it has to do with these teams aren't practicing nearly as much in the off season, and it's
preseason game,
and the defenses are just way more prepared coming out. So it's a good point for sure.
All right. I will also just say as Steve, I'm going to go to you on the next player, but as I get ready to do that, I will just tell all you beautiful people, we see you guys watching. If you could, please just give us a like. Helps us out immensely, and we appreciate the hell out of it. But yeah, Steve, let's get into some rookie quarterbacks. We talked about Baker Mayfield going up against the Commanders yesterday, but it was Jayden Daniels also going up against the Buccaneers. Not every day you see a QB throw for 184 yards and finish as a QB3, but he did, thanks to the rushing yards and the touchdowns. What are your thoughts there? Little week one observation of Jayden Daniels.
And that's kind of what you expected when you drafted Jayden Daniels. I mean, if he's going to stay healthy, he's going to be a fantasy smash because he's just going to run so much. Now, he's like the most like Lamar. Now, he's not Lamar's size, but he's got that speed that Lamar has. He slid a bunch. I thought he was pretty smart for the most part. Took a couple hits, but for the most part, I thought he was pretty smart. Throwing wise, he missed McLaurin on a deep bomb, which probably would have been a touchdown. Just missed it. But otherwise, I thought he was pretty solid in the pocket. He did a good job for the most part. But again, Cliff Kingsbury, not a lot of motion in this offense. I think McLaurin was mostly stagnant, so that's not great. Luke McCaffrey actually 3 catches for 18 yards, almost caught a touchdown at the end. But I don't know passing wise how explosive this team is going to be with the yardage. But Daniels is certainly going to run a lot. 2 rushing touchdowns in this game. That one of them came back, after it was called back, he went right back in. So great sign for Jayden Daniels fantasy owners. You waited 9th, 8th, 9th, 10th round to take him. Something like that. And that's going to be one of those QB situations where you can wait long and he's going to return a lot of fantasy production for your teams. And week 1 was an excellent start.
All right. Any of you other guys have anything on Jayden? I thought it was decent,
Only 6.44 adjusted net yards per attempt, one of the lowest. But as I look at these quarterbacks, he's around like Lamar, Jalen Hurts. So it seems like these running quarterbacks are all within that same range, but at least they're throwing to their wide receivers. And that's the concerning thing. Yep. If you're a Terry McLaurin fantasy manager, everybody was, when they moved on from Dotson, we saw a little bit of an ADP spike for Terry McLaurin, thinking he was going to get peppered with targets. This is another guy here. McLaurin, 4 targets, 2 for 17. Where the most, not one player on this team had more than 4 targets. Eckler had 4 for 52. Brian Robinson, 3 of 4 for 49. Zach Ertz, 3 of 4 for 28. I get Jayden Daniels going to be nice for fantasy as a runner, but there's going to be times where the enemy defense, they're going to take that run away and make him throw the football. My question is, can he do it? Because everybody was talking about Anthony Richardson. Can he throw the football? We know Anthony Richardson can throw the football.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the only thing is Daniels was a very accurate passer in college too. The only thing I would say, even when Dotson got moved on, I didn't really love Terry. And I was talking to Hoff about this yesterday too. I was more concerned because to Steve's point, this offense is super stagnant. They don't motion anything and I was worried that, Terry, they're just going to bracket him. The good news for if you have Terry McLaurin though, is his next 4 games are awesome. He plays the Giants. Their secondary is trash. He plays the Commanders, which we just saw what the Bucs did to them.
He plays.
I don't see how
he plays for the Commanders.
He plays.
I don't see how Terry McLaurin doesn't step up even more. I mean, he has 1,000 yards 4 years in a row. This is his best quarterback, so it's gonna come.
I hear you.
There's nobody else. There's nobody else there. I mean.
I just think I just worry that there's going to be growing pains, and I am not a big Cliff Kingsbury guy, man.
No, I'm not either. I don't think he's great, but
yeah,
I mean, at least it's just the situation, and I mean, it's Daniels, McLaurin's best quarterback. It just makes so much sense. It just has to happen. You got to throw the ball to somebody. You can't just run fucking for 100. I mean, I guess he could, but
I just worry that he's capped. That's the biggest thing. He's going to get peppered with touches, but I just don't know how much he gets into the end zone, which has always been his issue. Daniels is going to vulture touchdowns down there. We know Zach Ertz is just going to be an annoying guy that will probably score. And then Brian Robinson and Eckler, who got a ton of targets, they'll find their way. But again, I made a mistake. I meant to say they play the Giants, Bengals,
we're going to give you one more time. Okay.
Browns. Ravens are a little tougher, but they got carved up a little bit too. and then they play the
Yeah.
Panthers. So he's
got-
got favorable matchups though, at least the next few
Ravens
weeks.
got carved up. Ravens
get
got
our-
carved up, but they got carved up, but they got
And their
carved up by
defense
Pat
sucks.
Mahomes. Let's make that
I
abundantly clear.
get it. I get it.
That doesn't mean Jayden Daniels is the
That's
same
the
advantage.
toughest matchup that he has, though, in the next 5 weeks. Which, other than that, I mean, the Bengals secondary sucks. The Giants secondary sucks. Cardinals secondary sucks. Browns just got their dicks kicked in, and then it's Ravens, and then it's Panthers. Panthers
Well,
secondary sucks.
the other good thing is the Commanders' defense does not look good right now. So
Right.
No.
that's another good thing for Daniels.
So,
Yeah.
all right, Steve, I'm going to go to you on this one question. Then I'm going to go to Anthony on another question. And then Pete is going to get some stuff off of his chest, a little bit of a selfish therapy session for himself. But Steve, Jared is asking, he's telling us he appreciates the advice, of course, and we enjoy giving that to you. But he says, please, in PPR, rank these 3 backs in terms of waiver wire pickups. Tank Bigsby, Justice Hill, or Alexander Madison?
I think Madison and Bigsby have the most upside.
Yeah,
Obviously, Justice Hill, he'll be like a solid fill-in. Like he'll give you the 8, 9, 10 points, but he's never going to just go off. Keaton Mitchell might be back eventually. Maybe Rasheen Ali, the rookie. So as far as upside, Bigsby still has ETN in front of him too. Although Bigsby did look good, I just don't know if he's ever going to be like he's not going to be the true number 1, where I think Madison played a lot yesterday. And Zamir White was a little bit down. Madison getting work in the passing game. Antonio Pierce is saying they're going to mix these guys in, use the hot hand. So I think Madison slightly, but Bigsby probably is the more talented back overall. So it's very close, but I'd give Madison the slight nod there.
Just to interject on the Tank Bigsby, he actually had the same number of carries as Travis Etienne and outgained him with 73 yards. When it comes to snaps, Etienne dominated that with 34, Bigsby 17. But it seems like when Bigsby's on the field, he is touching the ball. But I also agree with Steve. I'd rather have Alexander Madison because Zamir White, like I thought he was going to have a few weeks of a leash. It seems like that leash is real short.
Yeah, it seems that way. Or it seems like it might not have even existed. Yeah. They're just going to kind of share work. So,
and their
Anthony,
snap counts were I actually think Alexander Madison, I have the snap count in front of me. He out-snapped Zamir White 35-23. So that's very concerning.
No bueno. Anthony, you can speak on this one really quick, just in case Gustavo wasn't here. He is asking, do I panic about Drake London now or later? I know we covered it, but if you want to give him a quick little answer, feel free.
I'm not ready to panic, but I'm panicking a little bit. Like this isn't a full-blown go sell Drake London.
Oh, wait,
but
breaking news. Christian McCaffrey's a surprise inactive tonight.
Holy shit.
What?
Surprise inactive tonight. Christian McCaffrey is a surprise inactive.
I gotta put more money on fucking Kittle.
You're joking me.
I'm not joking. Why would I want to joke about that? I'm the resident 49er fan.
You like to fuck with me.
No, I wouldn't do that at the expense of the Niners. I'm a Niner fan. I wouldn't do that. I'm telling you, it literally just
Jordan Mason plus 650 right now. Scored touchdown. I just put $20 on him.
You know how many lineups that's going to screw over for people that don't have Jordan Mason or
shit.
And in the FFPC, you can't swap it out anymore.
Oh my god, let me get that, please.
Dude, what? Right. We're very, very hushed by the Niners. I mean, this might be something more serious.
I told you I was concerned about that, Hoff, by the way.
I know you did.
Do I take the Jets to cover now?
No, well, easy with that, will you?
Oh, Mason's down to 115 already.
On DK?
Yeah.
I just got him at plus 650. Like
I'm taking him to score 2 at plus 750. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, wow, he moved
right?
Plus 120 now. Holy shit.
I'm going to use my Puka Nacua money on it.
No, they just
That's what I did too. I did the same thing.
Now it's at plus 900, so I'm jumping on it now.
What?
Yeah.
Plus 900.
To score 2? Why not?
Oh, to score twice.
For a free bet? I'll take it as a free bet.
They just took all the Jordan Mason stuff off of DraftKings, you jerks.
No, I got it.
I didn't.
They took the props off Bet365 too. He's not there anymore.
Just before, I don't want to be rude, but no, I'm panicking, but I'm not panicking. Like I believe in the Falcons. I believe in Zach Robinson. I don't know what the hell type of game he called. Ray McLeod should not be leading that team in targets. If you ask me, it almost looked like it looked like Arthur Smith play calling, only he used Bijan Robinson. That's what that game looked like. And I think it's going to end up correcting itself sooner rather than later. Because if it doesn't, I believe Michael Penix will start games this season. If they don't figure out Kirk Cousins, we're going to see Michael Penix. I don't think that's a hot take.
Yeah, but you know what? If they're not protecting Kirk Cousins, if Penix goes in there, he's gonna get fucking smashed too. So
yeah.
I should have put like
unless it's more just Cousins' injury and he's not playing well, then that probably makes sense.
Yeah. Just real quick, just for fun. He's actually a Chris McCaffrey owner in our home league. He's asking Mike, how do you feel about losing one-on-one in beer pong to me and then one-on-one to my wife? How are you feeling? Feel good. Had a good night, though. The chicken was fantastic. So that kind of made up for the losses in beer pong. But he is a Christian McCaffrey owner. He also wanted me to tell you, Anthony, that every time he listens to this show, he's in the shower. So he wanted you to know that. I don't know why he wanted you to know that, but he wanted you to know that. So there you go. Now you know.
All right.
But all right. Yeah, I was taken off my game there by that CMC news and not being able to get the Jordan Mason lines. But my DraftKings lineups will be changing. That's for
if you could pick up Isaac Garendo, you got to go fucking snatch him up right now. He's healthy. He's the second back tonight, right, Mike?
Yeah.
Yes, he is, Joe.
Yeah.
Yes, he is.
Yes, he is. That he is. All right. So there you go. All right. We can get into our next player. So actually, Pete, this one's for you. You can now.
I'm frazzled about the CMC stuff.
Yeah. Well, so am I.
Talk about react. This fucking week one, by the way.
Yeah.
They got to go back to playing real preseason games. Put 4 back. Ever since they changed to 3, it sucks. Like week one has been nothing but disasters. When no starters are playing at all, like you need to get into football shape. And I know, Pete, you played football. There's a vast difference of getting in football shape. And I think in week 1 and week 2, we know, like, you can see the teams who actually practice hard and see the teams who don't.
That's why think about the Patriots, right? Gerard Mayo comes from that Belichick coaching tree. They kicked the shit out of the Bengals. And Zach Taylor comes from McVay tree. McVay doesn't play his guys. That's a good point. Look at the Falcons. Look at the Falcons. Same thing. Same tree.
How about look at the game last night, Sunday Night Football? In overtime, Dan Campbell's team, they imposed their will, and David Montgomery shoved it down the Rams' throats. Right? That was just, we've been practicing harder than you.
Yeah.
That's just my take on week 1. I think I get player protection. You're probably hurting your players by not getting them into better football shape.
And I bet the players would probably agree. But yeah, so if you are just joining us, Christian McCaffrey is a surprise inactive tonight. So if you got to fix your lineups, you should fix them right meow. But Pete, I did want to go to you. I know you're a little frazzled, but so are all of us. So you being the rookie on this podcast, we're going to make you deal with it. You got to speak next. You wanted to get this off your chest, though. Mr. Bo Nix is another one of our week 1 reactions that we are doing. So the floor is yours, good sir. Talk about Bo Nix.
Yeah. I unfortunately didn't get to see the game live. So I caught some of it live on my phone, but I watched the replay twice. Steve watched the same thing. Not a great outing for Nix. Obviously, the 2 interceptions. He threw the ball 42 times, and that's not even including the fact that he also dropped back another 5 where he ran. Crazy enough, Bo Nix topped out at the 3rd highest speed by next gen stats by a rusher. So he's got the legs. I think Sean Payton and them need to start incorporating some of that RPO college stuff that we saw. We saw it a little bit in the preseason as well. But yeah, tough day for Nix. I read a statistic that said since 2010, rookie quarterbacks are 18, 108, and 2 when attempting 40 or more passes. Bo Nix attempted 42, and they ran the ball only 37% of the time. It's discouraging for me, and I've been a big proponent of Sean Payton. It's only week 1, but little Jordan Humphreys is out there catching the football and dropping the football. Sutton had 2 drops. Josh Reynolds had a drop. So receivers dropped 4 passes. He's in Seattle in a pretty tough environment. I mean, if I have him in Dynasty, I'm not panic selling him. I don't think many people have him in redraft, but if the game plan does change where they realize that we need to start incorporating his legs to run, he could be somebody to watch in some weeks later on in the year, possibly for fantasy. But as the Broncos fan, I'm trying to put some positive spin on it, of course. But I want to be true as well. It was a rough outing. And so we'll have to see. But as for the running backs, Jaleel McLaughlin could find himself on the field more than I thought. I was worried about his workload, but quite honestly, this is an offense that lacks pop. They have no playmakers. Sutton and Josh Reynolds and little Jordan Humphreys. Devon Vele is a guy I would consider targeting as well. He had 8 targets yesterday and he caught like 7 passes. He's a rookie that made the team over Tim Patrick. He provides a little bit more burst and juice. So he could be a deep league stash possibly too, because this team's going to have to figure it out. Marvin Mims played 12 snaps yesterday and they have no juice. Javonte looked slow. A lot of people were slipping and sliding on the field too. It seemed like Javonte and the running backs couldn't find their footing. It was kind of weird. So just an all-around bad day. But it's tough to ask a rookie to go into Seattle, and that defense looked really improved, and McDonald had them ready to go. So they got another tough one next week. But in terms of the running backs, I had people ask me if they should sell Javonte. I think you're selling him really low right now.
Yeah,
I'd probably hang on. His stock probably can't get lower after that game. So
gotta ride that lightning a little bit longer.
Yeah. And honestly, Marvin Mims could be somebody that ends up emerging at some point. That's why me and Steve went back and forth a little bit, because this offense can't sit here and roll out these big body receivers with no pop. Mims is going to have to force his way on the field somehow. So maybe in a couple weeks we can revisit that if things change. But that's what I got to get off my chest. That's all I got for you.
Steve, I'll give you I'm going to go to Anthony with the next player, but Steve, I'll just give you a moment in case you had anything on Bo Nix, because I saw in our group chat you and Pete were kind of kicking some stuff around. Did you have anything to add on what Pete was saying about Nix and the Broncos? Or
Yeah, I mean, he was kind of an up and down. He made some good plays, but a lot of the throws down the field were inaccurate. I mean, he forced 2 balls into Cortland Sutton. One was double coverage, got picked. One was triple coverage, got picked. It was kind of a bad matchup. Seattle has those 6'3", 6'4" corners, Woolen and freaking Witherspoon, who match up well with the Broncos' bigger receivers. So I don't know, man. Like Sean Payton, has the NFL passed him by? We'll see. But he's certainly got to get some of these speedster guys, I think, in there. Mims and Franklin, maybe try to open up the offense a little bit underneath. The running game did not look good. I mean, there was no real blocking. Javonte Williams looked crusty. Even McLaughlin didn't look that great. Estime had one great run, his first carry, but then he fumbled it, and then he only saw one other snap besides that because I think McLaughlin got hurt, so they rushed him onto the field. So the Broncos, man, I don't know. I mean, it could just be another fucking frustrating year for them. But let's see about Bo Nix. I think he's still got some promise. It was just one game, his first game of the year. So
some of those throws he had no business making, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah. So he's got some time to turn it around. But and again, I think it was a bad matchup. They were manning up those receivers. There wasn't much separation at all. So against zone and different defenses, I think it will work a little bit better.
Yeah, Devon Vele, Broncos rookie, 8 of 8 targets, 39 yards, just under 12 PPR points. If he's on your waiver wire, I'm dropping Marvin Mims for him. Marvin Mims is rostered, Mims saw only 12 offensive snaps, where Vele got the targets and got the playing time. So if you need a sneaky waiver wire pickup, you're in a deeper league and you happen to have Mims, why not? There seems to be some kind of a rookie rapport with these two. And Mims, I don't know what the fuck's going on with Mims, right? I like them a lot.
It's like a weird. Here's the thing I'll say, and Hoff and Steve are baseball fans, not as much as you, Anthony. So it's kind of like when you have a coach that benches a batter against righty lefties, right? Where you have a young batter who, they don't want to play him lefty-lefty matchups, or they want to play him lefty-righty. And then you sit there and you say, well, how can a dude get better batting against righties if you never let him bat against righties? It's the same thing with the wide receivers. This is a fucking rebuild year for Denver. Even if Mims and Franklin aren't ready, let him get on the field and let him grow. Otherwise, Cortland Sutton, he's a good veteran, but you're not going anywhere with Josh fucking Reynolds. And I get it's week 1, so I'm not sitting here saying I'm upset that Reynolds is there and he can't get better or whatever. But an offense that lacks pop and explosiveness, I don't know how. Even if Mims and Franklin are still a little raw, get them on the field and let them learn. There's no other way to do it.
We do have more breaking news. Bears first round pick Roma Dunze sprained his MCL. Will be considered week to week. So there you go. Before we get to the next player, I will also just mention with Christian McCaffrey being out, which deserves another goat scream.
Oh,
nope, that's just as bad. But yeah, anyway, that being said, I am seeing some questions here about the things with Debo, is Sauce Gardner going to shadow him all game? And I think I would only say no to that only because now I think this changes how they're going to use. This changes how the 49ers are going to use Debo tonight. Maybe they were already intending him to use this way, knowing Christian wasn't feeling quite right. So I don't think he's going to.
Sauce plays a lot on the left side, and then Reed plays the other side. That's kind of how they do it.
But whoever Sauce is covering, they're in for a long night. That's for damn sure. I'm seeing a lot of other comments. Kittle, big game. Yeah, potentially, but maybe they need him to block too. That Jets defensive line's scary. So we'll see what happens. What's that?
Let me ask you:
is
Brandon does this help or hurt Brandon Ayuk tonight with CMC? We always say, if one of these guys are down, the other guy steps up. But we expected him to be rusty tonight anyway.
I think it helps. But I think it puts the Niners in a tough spot because I think the Niners kind of wanted to put him on not a low pitch count, but they didn't want to have him out there.
Hey, maybe Jacob Cowing. Maybe Jacob Cowing for DFS tonight. That could be a
you got to see who's going to be active, which wide receiver. If it's going to be Cowing, if it's going to be Conley, it could be a couple different guys. So we'll see who they make inactive and active with the final, which should be out now actually. So we'll have to check that in a moment. But so we'll see what happens there. But Anthony, I will now go to you to a player that played on Saturday. Sounds like a Purdy pick 6 is inevitable. Joe, why you gotta bring that bad juju into my room?
I like it, baby.
I do not like it. Anyway, Anthony might
and freaking Tre'Davious Ward, supposedly the big. He actually he might be the big dog with CMC out now. He might be the big dog on the team. So.
He's the best cornerback on the team. All right, he's the best. He's the best cornerback on the team. I'm sorry, we don't have all Sauce Gardners. I mean, we do have the best linebacker in football, and we got Nick Bosa. So I'm sorry we don't have something that enticing for you. You're a Jet fan. I don't even know why I have this conversation. Anyway, let's get on to some real.
At least I'm not a Mets fan, although they're hot right now.
They're hot. Yeah, I got that for at least maybe another week and a half. All right. So Anthony, though, let's be serious here, as you would say. Let's go from one player to another. Let's talk about Saquon Barkley. Saturday night, absolutely tore it up, which must have nauseated Giants fans even more so when they watched their team get destroyed by the Vikings. But 109 rushing yards, 23 receiving yards, 3 total touchdowns. He joins 49ers legend Terrell Owens as the only player to score 3 touchdowns in a Eagles debut. Anthony, we talked a lot about this during the offseason. He's got a better offensive line now. How deadly could Saquon Barkley be in this Eagles offense?
I remember my instant reaction with this move was, hey, he could have a Christian McCaffrey type career resurgence. And I took a lot of heat for it. Looks like out of the gate, it is very much in play here. Anybody was saying, oh, the Eagles don't throw the ball, they're running backs. That was his first touchdown on a really nice play from Jalen Hurts to Saquon Barkley. And I think it was like a wheel route. Kellen Moore, he does throw to his running backs, and I like what Kellen Moore brings to this offense. And forget about what he did with the Chargers, but all those years in Dallas, I think this is a more talented offense than what Kellen Moore had. This thing's a juggernaut. We saw A.J. Brown click, Devonta Smith click, even Goddard had around 5 targets, and obviously Saquon was the star of the show. So like the sky's the limit for Saquon Barkley. I think the only person that can stop Saquon is Saquon and injuries. If this guy stays healthy, and then Coventry said it today in a RotoWire show, the Eagles are missing Kelsey. That push didn't look right. So like Saquon's going to benefit from that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I agree. Totally.
Saquon had 80% of the snaps, by the way, too. 80% of the snaps, and he also ran 24 routes. He only had 2 targets, but he's still running. But
yeah, I was doing drafts
he
towards
doesn't
the end,
so he can't be a top 5 running back this year. We were told,
Saquon was going like number 2 overall towards the end there.
Yeah.
After that game.
I remember when I started doing the drafts, I was getting him at the 3rd round turn. And I'm like, I literally have so much Saquon exposure.
Everybody got to get their receivers. They got to take They got to take Michael Pittman and fucking, I got to grab 19,000 receivers to skip.
I think I have 20%. I think I have 20% on underdog for Saquon.
And it sucks because CMC is out today, but I have builds with CMC. And then I forget, and then like I forgot who I would take at the number 2, and then at the turn, Saquon. I have Lamb, Saquon as a 3rd round pick. Like this is why I draft on drafters, because I think there's an advantage to short players.
Mm-hmm.
In no way in hell should Saquon ever go in the 3rd round.
No.
Yeah. Completely off topic. I'm assuming they're going to take away that Barstool bit that we all jumped on DraftKings with the 35 rushing yards.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah, so we'll get that kicked back.
All right, so let's go. Let's stay with running backs, and let's go. Maybe we weren't all surprised by Saquon Barkley, but one guy who did surprise a lot of us, and Steve, I'll go to you on this one, is Mr. J.K. Dobbins of the Los Angeles Chargers. Going up against the Raiders. He's currently the RB3 on the week, and he had the fewest rushing attempts of any running back that's currently in the top 5. Steve, what do you make of this performance, and do you think this could help him get more work maybe?
Yeah, J.K. Dobbins, man. I mean, people forget how good this guy was coming out of Ohio State, and then even in the NFL with the Ravens. I mean, he just did nothing but produce when he was healthy. The biggest thing is just the ACL, the Achilles, the tears. So, he was saying it this year coming in. He says he feels great. It felt like an ankle sprain. So, I mean, we heard that from him last year, but then he did tear his Achilles after the ACL. He looked good. So this guy, anytime he's on the field, his career yards per carry is 6.1. Yeah. I mean, the guy's an absolute beast. He has the perfect body for a running back. 5'10", 215. He can break tackles. He's smart. He's patient. This guy is fucking talented as shit. So if he could stay healthy, that's the biggest concern. He's in such a great situation. And look at Joe Alt, man. What a pick by the freaking Chargers. The whole Chargers team just seems to be, with Harbaugh now, just seems to be on a different level already. I guess 1 week against the Raiders, but better defense already. The run game's working, and Dobbins is breaking big runs. So, yeah, I mean, I went all in on this guy the last 2 years. It absolutely burned on me. Last year, he was my highest owned running back. I think like over 50%. Wasn't as high as this year because of last year, but still very highly owned. What a value. And if he could just stay on the field, man, he's going to be an absolute smash. He's so talented. He's one of the best running backs, pure runners in the league, in my opinion. Just watching all his carries from a couple years ago. He's a special player, so just needs to stay healthy. He's better than Gus Edwards. Vidal is buried right now. Don't worry about him. Yeah. It's just a matter of health with J.K. Dobbins. He's in a great situation here with the Chargers. So, it could be an absolute smash, an absolute game-winning pick if you took J.K. Dobbins.
Yeah.
I feel I'm more on this side of it. I don't know. I mean, to Steve's point, if you got Dobbins, it's a great value. But I would flip him if you could even get like a Brian Thomas Jr. There could be somebody out there.
He's going to get hurt. If he's, you're
I even watched that like big run and like he just started slowing down.
With the Dobbins hate, bro. You've been hating on this guy. Stop.
No, it's a great value. But to me, like look at the snap share.
Look at his fucking 6.1 yards per carry.
You're gonna play
6.1 yards per carry. Stay on the fucking field.
To play the hot hand.
All right, flip him.
The hot hand will never be
Gus. The hot hand? What the fuck are you talking about? It's fucking
Gus Edwards.
Gus Edwards sucks.
Gus
Come
Edwards
on.
will never be the high end. Gus
I
Edwards
hate-
not
I
a good
hate
running back.
Dobbins.
He is a
I don't
plotter.
know.
You hate the all right, fuck it.
I just don't.
Balls.
I just don't know. I don't
J.K.
know.
Dobbins will win leagues if he stays healthy.
If he stays
balls.
healthy. I don't know.
Talk balls.
I just get PTSDs with guys like that coming off.
You
big
hate
injuries.
anybody who gets hurt.
Yeah, I just don't like, especially running backs. Like I just don't know. I just don't like the workload, man. I just get worried about the workload.
I mean, I can understand. I mean, the guy has a crazy injury history.
And I'm just thinking, you
want
could
to
probably
fucking
get a haul.
the problem is if you want to just try to fucking win a league, just stick with him at this point. You know, take the injury.
Who would you? All right, let me ask you. Who would you trade would you trade for Kamara if you could give Dobbins up for Kamara? Would you do that?
I mean, I guess, yeah, probably.
If you can give Dobbins up for Kamara,
Yeah.
Well, I'm trying to think of guys that maybe.
yeah, I
like,
would do that in a
guys-
heartbeat.
Right. So I'm trying to think of where the cutoff is.
I
Would you
mean,
do Brian
Dobbins could be better than Kamara this year.
I think go with this
I don't think that's a hot take, Mike.
It's not.
It's a little hot. It's a little hot for me. It's a little hot.
I get that the Saints look good in week 1. The Panthers are literally the worst team. They're bad.
No, I'm not basing that off of week 1. I'm basing, like, if I'm in a PPR league, for example, to be specific, then I would 1000% make that move. If we're talking about a standard league, okay, then maybe I'm not making that move. But I always go in my head. I always think off of a PPR league in my head.
All right. Well, let me ask you, Brian,
for-
would you do Brian Thomas Jr.? Well, I mean, I think that's a good comp. Both guys were values at the end of the draft. Would you trade Dobbins for Brian Thomas?
Well, I'm probably not the right guy to ask because I would take a bullet for Brian Thomas right now. So I would do
drafted and as a top, in the first 10 rounds. J.K. Dobbins is unowned.
I know that, but
leagues.
I get it, but you got to think about, like, you're in home leagues, Anthony. In home leagues, like, people look at Dobbins 136 yards on 10 touches, like, they look at that and they might think Brian Thomas is in a shitty offense. The Commanders stink. And he's splitting workload with Eckler. So, like, you could probably find an owner that would be willing to do it. We're talking league winner because of the value with Dobbins.
I don't know. I would just say if you took Dobbins,
you got a great value. You got a great value. That's all I'm saying.
So
I would just try to capitalize on the value.
If you took Dobbins and based on his injury history, but I mean, the guy's been through fucking hell already. Is he going to get another year-ending injury again? I mean, what the fuck?
What?
It could happen.
Well, maybe.
But I feel like if you took
but that's what you're banking on, basically.
But that's why you got him at such a good value, which is perfectly accurate. If you drafted Dobbins, you're very happy right now.
Why not just try to enjoy it? Why do we got to just try to fucking move him,
I would try to listen, I have Dobbins. I'm riding it out.
That's fair. That's fair.
And I don't think it's a hot take to say J.K. Dobbins could be better than Alvin Kamara this year, because J.K. Dobbins for years we're drafting him 3rd, 4th round with the Baltimore Ravens. Over 6 yards per carry, like, that's not an anomaly.
Yeah, and he blew up in your face though. He can,
and like Dobbins next week.
He gets. Who would you rather have, Anthony? This is an interesting one. Who would you rather have, Bucky Irving or Dobbins this year?
Dobbins.
Like,
that's not close.
Okay. I just know Anthony likes Bucky, and I know he talks about how he still.
Anthony, you're talking about where people would draft him, but then his body would explode within 3 weeks. Like, all right. So I had egg on my face, and when I had Kamara, guess what?
Would it be more optimal?
Not unless he's knocking people outside the elevator.
Would it be more optimal if you want to play the trade game to trade him? He gets Carolina next week after what Kamara did, a 30-year-old Alvin Kamara. Wouldn't it be more optimal to get another game out of him and then flip him?
I'll tell you what, if there's a league you and I are in, and if I have J.K. Dobbins, and if you have Alvin Kamara, you send me that trade before we're off air, and I will accept it.
I'm not saying I would do it.
Oh, well,
I don't know if I would do it. What I'm saying is I think he will be better. I don't think it's out of the fucking world to say that if J.K. Dobbins plays 17 games, it's going to be more productive.
Look, the main thing is you're playing with house money. If you got Dobbins, you're playing with house money, and you're in the black probably at this point. Because I mean, even what he did this week, like, most people didn't think he could have one game that way, let alone like first game of the year. So you're in the money with him. It's you're rolling with house money at the rest of the year now. So you're happy with it,
So the last thing I'll say about this is if you want to bank on the guy getting another serious injury, and you could switch him for a Kamara, or if you want to go for an upside pick with Brian Thomas, I don't hate it, but Dobbins, if he's on the field, he's gonna produce at a high level.
What about like JMO? Like, I mean, maybe somebody thinks they're selling high on JMO. Would you?
I mean, there's a
would you
million
do that?
guys.
You like
There's a
JMO?
million
Would
guys.
Would you do that?
It depends what I need. Like if I need running backs, no. If I need a receiver, maybe. But I still, again, like I'm just gonna play it as third time's a charm here for Dobbins. He's in a great situation here with the Chargers, who want to run the football, who know how to run the football, and I just, and their defense looks better too. So the game scripts might be nice for him all year.
All right, so let's answer. We got one question that's actually relevant to tonight, so let's answer that. Let's do, I say, maybe one more player, and we're at an hour 6, and it's 7:17, so we have Monday Night Football starting soon. But we are getting asked by Adam Weber, and this is for tonight, so he needs it. Start Jordan Mason or Garrett Wilson, full point per reception. Pete, I'll kick this one. I mean, we could all answer it, but Pete, I'll kick it to you to start. You're
starting Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say too. Yeah.
I mean, it sounds cool and fun. Like, Mason could have a fucking amazing game. Like, it wouldn't shock me.
That's defense, like it's
be
different if they were playing a team that was not good against the run.
It's Monday night. Don't get cute. Just start your stud and just roll with it. It's Monday night.
I mean, if you're up by 20 points and your opponent's got nothing going on, then yeah, sure, go ahead. I don't know, but I wouldn't do it. I would start Garrett Wilson, and that's me being a Niner guy. But it was mentioned at some point during that whole debacle where I was just playing sound drops to pass the time while you guys were all arguing. Let's do Jameson Williams. And actually, Anthony, I'm going to kick this one to you. If anybody has anything to say on Jameson Williams, we can, and then we'll probably ride off into the sunset, I guess, today. But Anthony, you kind of, I got the sense you were taking a lot of pride in Jameson Williams last night. Talk about it.
Jameson Williams is the player that I was in on since he came out. And obviously he's had a lot of misfortune, almost similar to J.K. Dobbins. Like everything broke wrong for Jameson Williams. Am I wrong?
Yeah. No,
between the injury in the college game, then the gambling, and then last year when they were trying to get him reps in the preseason, but while he serves out the gambling suspension, he gets the hamstring.
Yeah.
And then
I only side at you, and you can finish your point because you found a way to weave Dobbins into the conversation, just like I always find a way to weave the 49ers into the conversation. So it's a good work. It's very good. I like it. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
But like last year, they started deploying him, right, especially in the postseason. And this offseason, it was like nothing but positive. And the Lions, who are knocking at the door of a Super Bowl, you would think they would go out and get a wide receiver. Not if they think they already have one. And, last night you get the Rams, and this is a makeshift defense. No Aaron Donald. They're turning over a new leaf. I just, I had the anytime touchdown score. I have Jameson yards. I thought it would be a Jameson Williams game. Did I think it would come at the expense of Amon-Ra St. Brown? No, but like the way that they use Jameson Williams, I think this is the missing dynamic. Like, right, as good as the Lions were last year, I felt like they were missing something. Like, they're the type of team that you want to get a lead and then they want to run the ball, control the clock. But my worry with the Lions was if somebody jumps off, on a 2 to 3 score lead, which could happen in the NFL a lot, can they, do they have those quick strike hitters? They had Gibbs. But usually the good teams like the 49ers, they have like the Dolphins, they have a couple of guys that can go turn a game around or get back into a game. And Jameson Williams, I think, is another piece to the Lions that not only, it's great in fantasy, but like from an NFC perspective, they're a legitimate contender to go to take a Super Bowl this year. And I think Jameson Williams is a big part of that.
Yeah. Yeah, there definitely could be. There is one more question pertaining to tonight that I wanted to get to, but Steve or Pete, did either of you have anything to add onto what Anthony said about Jameson Williams, or is that pretty much it?
Before you guys interject,
never mind. You wait.
52 offensive snaps, and this wasn't like an Xavier word, like because people like he Jameson Williams, he's a gadget guy. He had 9 targets and played 52 snaps. This is not a gadget player,
right?
Mm-hmm. And
Had a target on 26% of his routes too.
I'll just say that, Dan Campbell was talking him up, saying they were saying he's running every route in the route tree. He's going to continue to get better. So, yeah, man, you see his talent. He's ultra explosive. He was a first round pick out of Bama for a reason. So, yeah, I think he's here to stay, and I think it could hurt St. Brown a little bit and Laporta as well.
Yeah, I was wrong. I was wrong on Jameson Williams. I think I kicked myself a little bit. He wasn't on my radar this year, and it probably should have been. I mean, they didn't really have anybody established outside of if I was fading Gibbs as much as I really was initially, I probably should have assumed that somebody else would have stepped up. So.
I've got some best ball shares of him. I think I have him in a league or two, so I'm happy to have.
I have some best ball, but not a ton.
This is actually a deep question from Jack. Deep is in the league. Anthony, you might enjoy this one. It's pertaining to tonight too. Jackson, maybe a reference to Action Jackson, maybe.
Oh,
spoiler, tease. Jackson does ask, with CMC out, I'm limited. So do I start Kyle Juszczyk or Braylon Allen? PPR. So this is a deep league. I personally would go
Juszczyk.
I would go Juszczyk only because I think they're going to be they might need to use him. So
I would go Allen. In the hopes the Jets want to run the football, play good defense, and maybe Allen sneaks in a touchdown.
I'd go Allen as well.
Okay.
I'm looking at the Juszczyk anytime touchdown score odds. I think they might be in play. Listen, the Jets, Jets good defense. You're down, 1.5 weapons. If you want to consider what IU's playing time is going to be, no Christian McCaffrey. I was already thinking, even with CMC, Debo's going to be the most productive player because of how versatile he is and the way Shanahan used it. But we've seen Hawk knows how many times have we seen Kyle Juszczyk in these type of games? They run him in some kind of a fucking weird passing play and he ends up in the end zone.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Actually, I'm pretty sure he caught the first ever regular season touchdown pass from Brock Purdy. So there you go.
Do you like Mason over 12.5? Yeah, receiving yards.
Yeah.
Yes, but not by much more than that.
Juszczyk only plus 400 to score a touchdown, which tells me Vegas is probably thinking because he's usually in that 600-700 range.
Well, I mean, I think CMC being out changed that. That's probably one of the numbers that changed. So, all right. Well, listen, I think we should ride off into the sunset now, guys, because it is
Conley
7:24.
plus 800.
Chris Conley. All right, there you go. There's a little nugget for you guys. But yeah, all right. So that will do it today. We had a lot of fun. If we didn't get to all of your questions, I'll tell you moving forward, we are doing super chats. So if you ever want a question answered, you do a super chat. We will guarantee that we answer that question before anybody else's. But we do have to get running because we have to get ready for Monday Night Football, and so do you guys. So let's get out of here.
We got it. Well, we have a couple questions, but Darian and
this
Brandon, why don't you guys just drop us your questions later on in the show when it closes out?
Yeah, absolutely. All right.
Yeah, ask these questions in the comment section, like Pete said, and we'll answer them.
And then one of us will get to you. But Anthony, so you and I will be back tomorrow with waivers, correct?
Yep.
All right, there you go. So tune in for the fun. So until next time, stay thirsty, be kind to one another. We'll catch you guys on the flip side. Cheers.